Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to the channel. I am here today with another collection tour, and this time I will be talking about my Arrow video collection. So this collection is a little different in that, one, it's a lot smaller than my other collections that I've shown, but it is a little bit interesting, at least to me, because it does have some Region B only discs. So Arrow Video is actually the company that kind of inspired me to go out and purchase a region-free Blu-ray player. And so I do have some releases from Arrow that are Region B only. I'm in the States, so I typically go with Region A. That's what you would find in the States here on the shelves. And in Region B would be what you would find, I don't know specifically, I know like in the UK. I don't know exactly where, if it's just Europe or what, but I know UK is one of those places, so excuse my ignorance on that. But like I said with my other collection tours, I have not watched 100% of these movies. That's just the way it is. In fact, probably the majority of these are still under shrink wrap, but you know, I'm not going to apologize for it. We all have X amount of free time that we can use to consume, and this just isn't one of those things that I have spent a good deal of time with. Now that said, obviously I purchased them with the intent to watch them. I just haven't gotten through them yet, or haven't gotten through all of them yet. So I will talk about the ones I can. If I can remember why I purchased it, I'll talk about that if I've not seen it, and so on. So with all of that said, let's dive right in. I do want to go through these movies in alphabetical order, but I'm going to break it down into two distinct groups. So the first group of films I'm going to talk about in alphabetical order is going to be the Region B exclusive discs. So these are releases that have only the Region B label on the back, which means they're only playable in a Region B player. Now, if you're in the United States and you have a standard Blu-ray player, these will not play on your player. You'd have to have a region-free player in order to watch these movies. And again, this is just these specific releases. Some of these may have had a Region A release after the fact. I don't know for sure. And then the other stack are going to be ones that are playable in a Region A, so in a United States Blu-ray player, without any special need to change any settings or anything like that. You just pop it in like a normal movie and you watch it. So those are the two distinct classes I'm going to break these down into. Classes is the wrong word, but the two distinct piles I'm going to break these Blu-rays down into. So the first film I want to talk about is Jaws on Land, aka The Car. That's how this film is always described. It is essentially Jaws but on land. Instead of a shark, you have a car. Instead of the ocean, you have the Nevada desert. And so James Brolin stars in this one, and it's directed by Elliot Silverstein, who, that name didn't ring a bell offhand, but he did do A Man Called Horse, which is a pretty popular Western. Unfortunately, I've not seen it, but you may have, and so you might recognize that name because of that. So this one I enjoyed. This is not a spectacular film by any stretch, but I thought it was pretty enjoyable for what it is. It's a very basic Jaws ripoff, but, you know, done on land. And this one, I actually was one of the first Region B movies I ever bought after I got my region-free player, and it was super cheap off of Arrow's website. It was like $5.99, I think, off of Arrow Video. Of course, that was in pounds, so it would have been under $10, I believe, is what I actually paid for it after shipping and everything. So the first one in my Arrow collection is The Car. Next up is a film that has had multiple Blu-ray releases, and I think I'm certain there's a Region A release of it, but the one I have is the Region B locked disc. This is Deranged, The Confessions of a Necrophile. So this is essentially the story of Ed Gein, but done in a narrative form as opposed to like a documentary. So Ed Gein, of course, is a infamous serial killer who has helped, was like the inspiration for, Psycho, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, most notably, different things like that. It also lists The Silence of the Lambs. It's very loosely, those stories are very loosely based on Ed Gein, and frankly, the stories themselves have nothing to do with it. There's just some elements that are taken from Ed Gein, with Leatherface, for example, the masks that he wears of the other, of the dead people he's murdered. That's, something Ed Gein used to do. So just, you get ideas of Ed Gein's killing method, his MO from in these movies. So this one I've actually not watched ever. Need to see this film. It's something that is right up my alley, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. But Deranged, The Confessions of a Serial Killer, and this one is my second Region B disc. Next up is one that I picked up after I watched Jackie Brown because I was obsessed with that movie. I loved it. And this is Foxy Brown. So this stars Pam Grier, who is brilliant. And this one is actually the steelbook of Foxy Brown. This is another one that I picked up right when I first got my Region B player and was relatively cheap, especially for a steelbook. So I've not seen this one, but it is a blaxploitation film and one I've heard a ton of good things about. And because it's starring Pam Grier, I'm guessing I'm probably going to like it. So Foxy Brown. This next one is the only one that is actually an Arrow Academy film. It's the only Arrow Academy film I own, which is just a subset of Arrow Video. I think they kind of do some of the weirder things, whereas Arrow Video might do some of the more, horror and more known movies. So this one is Immortal Tales, which just has a very odd cover. And this one, I don't know how I first heard of it. I just don't remember. It was probably through the Screamcast podcast because one of the hosts on there is big on Arrow. And I think they were talking about it in one of their episodes. Mind you, this was probably back in like 2016, 2017. This was released in 2014. Yeah. So it could have been anywhere around there. But this one is, it's just so weird. So takes Borowicz's celebrated eye for erotic representation about as far as it can go. So take that for what you will. Sounded interesting. I'm always up for weird things, and this sounds very weird. So I'll eventually give this one a shot and let you know what I think of it. Next up was one that I thought was okay, but I wasn't a huge fan of, and that's The Stuff. This is a Larry Cohen film, and I watched this one right around when I got it, and I thought it was okay, but I don't know. I feel like there are other movies that are similar to this that just do it better. Here is the reversible cover art, which some of these have it. I think the first movie I showed had it as well, the car, but I forgot to show the backside. But I think this cover is much cooler. But because I don't have a slip cover for these, I tend to keep on whichever side it came with. And that was this in this instance. And also in these Arrow Video releases, a lot of these, you get a booklet as well, which is really cool. So this, covers, let's see what's in the table of contents here. You get the Enough is Never Enough, Food, Cult Horror, and Larry Cohen's The Stuff. So you get an essay, basically, and then a poster gallery. So that's always cool. Very Criterion-like, which I always enjoy. So like I said, this one was okay. This is definitely not a reason to buy a Region B player for, but, and this one, I'm certain this has a Region A release at this point as well, but yeah, so at the time I bought this, it was only Region B, at least on Blu-ray, so, and again, all of these I picked up on Region B were really cheap, and so I figured, why not give it a shot? This one, I took a shot, and it was all right, but I'll probably never watch this one again, and I say that knowing that a lot of people, this is a cult hit for a lot of people. A lot of people love this movie. It just didn't really do it for me. So, The Stuff by Larry Cohen. Next up is one of the best films of all time, and it's a movie I have purchased so many different times. It was in my Scream Factory collection tour. I own it on DVD. I think I own the standard Blu-ray for it as well. But this is the Arrow Video Region B release of John Carpenter's The Thing. So, this is supposed to actually have a better picture quality than the Criterion, than the Scream Factory release, but I've not watched this disc yet. I recently watched when I purchased this, I had recently watched the Scream Factory release, so I didn't end up watching it again. But I do want to show you, this has a cardboard sleeve, and it comes with, again, a really cool booklet. This one has a couple different essays in it. Yeah, there's 2 different essays in this one. Lots of really good pictures in here, too. I just love these booklets. It's really high quality also, which is great. And then it has this really awesome poster. So you have the typical one, which I'm not going to be able to fit in frame, but then you have the newly commissioned cover art for this, which is on the back side of that poster, which is just so cool. You have a better look of the full thing right there, which is on the disc itself. So just a really cool release in terms of the physical release itself. I have not, like I said, I've not actually popped this Blu-ray in to check it out compared to the Scream Factory Blu-ray. I really was excited to get this one. I had this one pre-ordered when it was releasing. This came out back in 2017, so I was super thrilled to have this one in my collection and still am. So The Thing by John Carpenter, this is another Region B release from Arrow Video. And the last Region B exclusive disc I have is White of the Eye, and this is a Donald Cammell film. So this is another one that I picked up specifically because of that podcast I was talking about, the Screamcast. One of the hosts on there was big on giallos, and he marked this as really a one to watch, and so I definitely wanted to check it out. This one was originally released in 1986, so you have a good idea of what you're getting into, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. This one is another one that's still sealed, but one that I hopefully will enjoy when I finally get around to it. So White of the Eye, and that is the last of my Region B releases, so everything else you see from here on out is going to be playable on at least a Region A Blu-ray player, which is what you would have if you just bought something in the United States. So let's dive over to that side of it. Okay, so first up on the Region A side, and this one actually is Region A, B, and C. So that information is coming from right there. You can see it has A, B, C there, so that means it's playable on a Region A player, Region B player, and a Region C player. Again, I'm not going to talk about that on every release. Just know that everything I'm talking about from here on out is playable on a regular, standard United States Blu-ray player. So anyway, first up is A Bay of Blood, and I haven't even mentioned it yet, but some of the things that first drew me to Arrow Video were the incredibly commissioned cover art. I mean, look at that. It's gorgeous. I love it, which is one of the main reasons I bought this. I don't know very much about this. I believe it is another Giallo. Yeah, Mario Bava. So it's another one that's right in the same vein as whatever it was, White of the Eye. And it has kind of cover art that is just as good. So this one should be a lot of fun when I get to it. And this is another one that a lot of people know this film. So you probably, if you're watching this, you've probably already seen this. So let me know how it is down in the comments below. But as always, keep it spoiler free. So Bay of Blood. Next up is some more Giallo and some more Mario Bava. We have Blood and Black Lace, which is some crazy cover art. It's fantastic. And this one also has some reversible cover art, which I'll show there, which is awesome. I'll make sure it's YouTube appropriate, and that looks to be, so that's good. So this is another, like I said, another Giallo film. This is one I've opened, but I've actually not watched it yet. Another one that has a really cool booklet with it, as you can see here. This one's probably going to contain, this contains a number of essays, it looks like. So this is a really good booklet as well, with some awesome pictures in it. So always like the booklets. Blood and Black Lace, another Mario Bava film. Next up is a pretty infamous slasher film if you're into the slasher genre, and that is Blood Rage. So this one actually has 3 different covers. This is the slip cover, which I took out, but it also has this cover here, and then there is the reversible, which is that there. So hopefully you can see that. So all of them are pretty good. I think probably my favorite one has to be this one, even though I don't have that one on the top right now, but it's got a slip cover on anyway, so I don't really see it, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, this one, the reason that this slasher film is so infamous is because it's like the only Thanksgiving Day slasher. You can see on the cover, it says, "This Thanksgiving, it's not cranberry sauce." So this one was, I mean, this is not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination. It feels like a lower budget, early to mid 80s slasher film, and that's exactly what it was. I guess I don't know the budget, but it was shot in 1983, and it was not actually released until 1987, and this was shot down in Florida, and it definitely uses on-location filming, you can tell, but, it's enjoyable. If you are a slasher fan film, you will probably enjoy this. So what's really cool about this one is that there are actually 3 discs here. There's 2 Blu-rays and 1 DVD. So it has 3 versions of the film. Blood Rage, which is the original home video version, Nightmare at Shadow Woods, the theatrical recut, and then an alternate composite cut combining footage from both versions. I think I just watched Blood Rage. I think I just watched the original home video version, but I can't be 100% certain there. I probably have it written down somewhere. I just don't remember offhand. And again, if you like slasher films, you're probably going to enjoy this. If you don't, you're not going to like this one, because it definitely feels, it has that aesthetic to it, that cheap slasher aesthetic to it, if you will. So Blood Rage, I enjoyed it, but it's definitely not a great movie by any stretch. So next up is a film that has a very non-YouTube friendly cover. I'll show it for a second there. It is Caligula. This is a Roman a Roman orgy of sex, violence, and depravity. So it's another crazy one. I'm sure Immortal Tales is probably like this as well. But yeah, I don't know too much about this one other than it's gonna be bonkers. So, that's good enough for me. Next up is probably the coolest cover in this whole set. I love this lenticular cover here. It's awesome. But this is Contamination. Let me show the cover art. I think this is the alternate cover art. And then we have that as well. Okay, so that's just the slipcover art. So only 2 different ones here. But Contamination is an Alien ripoff. That's exactly what it is. It's a low-budget Alien ripoff. And, you know, honestly, I didn't like this one too much. This one I think I actually watched for the Cinefessions podcast on one of our, not our main part of the episode, but the kind of the clearing the backlog portion of it, where we try to watch things that were physical items that we own that we haven't watched yet. So this one is, it's all right. It's an Italian Alien ripoff, and there's not much more to say about it here. Was not a huge fan of it, but if you can find it cheap and you know, that appeals to you, you might want to check it out. This version of it, I actually watched this first on, it was either DVD or streaming, I can't remember, and the quality was just absolutely terrible. I could barely make out anything. This version, though, cleans it up very, very well. It's beautiful. It's not, you know, going to blow you away in terms of the picture quality because they only have so much to work with, but they're able to clean it up a lot better than the release I'd seen to it prior to this version of it. So, you know, it might be worth it just for that alone. Next up is Day of Anger, and this is a Lee Van Cleef film, and this is a Western. I don't know much about it. It's another one that I heard about through the Screamcast, and so I decided I wanted to pick it up, yeah, so I grabbed it. So Day of Anger, another Lee Van Cleef movie, so it should be pretty good. Keeping with that theme that some of these Arrow Video movies that I've actually watched, I've not been the biggest fan of. We have Eaten Alive. This one, not bad. I'd probably give it, 2.5 out of 5 stars. I think that's what I gave it when I watched it. Or at that time, it would have been 2 out of 4. But either way, right down the middle. So this one has, Robert Englund in it. It has Marilyn Burns from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it has a giant alligator that's eating people. Basically, there is this hotel that people are going to, and the owner gets rid of his guests thanks to this wonderful alligator or crocodile. I don't know what it is. I think it's an alligator, though. So, yeah, this one's okay. This one, I will show the reverse cover art for that as well. I think... it's okay. It's just in the eye of the alligator, Marilyn Burns' character. I think I like this one better that I already showed. It's just more interesting to look at. That newly commissioned art, I'm sure. So yeah, Eaten Alive, it's okay. Finally, one to buck that trend, we have Frankenhooker. And this is just so goofy. It is a horror comedy. It is silly as hell. It is one of my co-hosts on the Cinefessions podcast way back when. Obviously, we haven't done that in a couple years now, but it's one of his favorite films. He loves it, and I can see why. I really enjoyed it when I watched it. It's just crazy and fun and very funny. So that's the reverse cover art there. I went with the one I already showed, just I like that one better. So Frankenhooker is definitely worth your time if you're into horror comedy. It's crazy, but it's fun. Then we have one that I was told not to buy. It's supposed to be a very mean-spirited horror film, and that is Island of Death. But because I'm crazy, I had to check it out for myself, because you say things like that, and it just makes me want to watch it more to see really how bad is it. And so Island of Death, have not watched this one yet, but it's another one that I've not heard good things about, so we'll see if I enjoy it or not. So Island of Death. And then we have The Mutilator, another slasher film from the 80s. I don't know exactly what year. 84, it looks like. And this release was done in 2016. This is supposed to be a very good version, like the best version of this film. So it should be good when I get to it. This next film is at the very top of my list. This is the film I want to watch next from this pile that I've not watched. And this is a Brian Yuzna film. It is Society. This has, I wish you can't really make it out, but it's textured and just insane. This cover is nuts. I've heard nothing but just ludicrous things about this film. So I want to check it out. And it's another one that comes with a very thick booklet. Oh, this is actually a graphic novel. That's awesome. I didn't know that. So I'm sure that has some, I dropped it. Okay. Anyway, I'm sure that has some relation to the film, but I don't know what. So we have this very cool postcard here, and then another booklet. Yeah, so this is the booklet. The other one was a graphic novel. So just a very good physical release. And this is, we'll just open this up. Yeah, so you can see inside there, nothing too crazy going on there. So yeah, just a very good physical release that I'm really excited to see. And like I said, this will definitely be the next Arrow Video film I watch. And I want to move it to the top of my list because I got to see it. I've heard nothing but insane things. So Society, the Brian Yuzna film. Next up is Spider Baby. And this is a Jack Hill film, which the reason I got this is because Tarantino loves Jack Hill. I love Tarantino, so I want to see what it is that is so interesting about him. So, and this also has Lon Chaney Jr., so this should be just really good too. So, Spider Baby. Next up is one that I honestly don't know what drew me to it. It's probably the most non-genre release of everything I've talked about so far, and this is Suture. So the only thing I can find in the back that was recognizable to me was the fact that Steven Soderbergh was an executive producer. Other than that, I don't know. But it looks like it might be a mix of like a noir and what other things? The Manchurian Candidate, Seconds. All these different movies are listed on the back that sound interesting to me. So however I found it, I decided it sounded good enough to watch. So Suture is the second to last film I'm going to talk about here. The last film in my Arrow video collection is The Zero Boys. So this is actually another Nico Mastorakis, however you say that, film. He also did Island of Death, which I showed a little bit earlier. So this one is supposed to be a genre-bending 80s classic with gruesome sequences that anticipate the torture porn horrors of Hostel and Saw. I was a big fan of movies like Hostel and Saw back in the day, so that description alone was enough to drive me to this one. And this is another one, thanks to the Screamcast, that's how I heard about it, so I decided to pick it up. So I've not watched this one yet, but it's another one that's right toward the top of the list. First will be Society, and then Zero Boys. So Zero Boys is going to round out my Arrow video collection. All right, so that's going to do it for my Arrow video collection tour. I know this one is a little bit smaller than my other collection tours I've done, but I hope you guys enjoyed it just the same. And let me know down in the comments below, is there anything glaring that I need to own from Arrow Video that I am missing? I would love to hear about that down below. Also, is there something I need to watch first before Society? Please let me know that as well. I'd love to have more of a conversation with you guys down in the comments below. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to Cinefessions here on YouTube. And if not, thank you anyway for watching. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.